was thinking we could start with is, since Raymond said that it's a blank box, nobody really knows what data center is all about, then I thought, why don't we start with ourselves? I already shared my story, how little I knew about the data center, and I think we're going to go in the same order as we did our presentations, reflecting on what was our impression of the data center industry before we joined, what got us to join, and did our impression match the reality then?
Good question. I've never heard of a data center. Just a couple of years ago, I was invited to an interview on the island, the green island with the green mountain. I didn't know what it was. I thought it sounded boring, not interesting, not for me. But I thought, okay, I should be polite. I should actually go to the interview. And I sat down and we talked for 2 hours. And when I drove back home, the only thing I could think of was, I hope I get this job. This sounds so exciting. So for me, it changed from 0 to 100. And I haven't regretted it because it is 4.5 years ago. But it was just a coincidence that I actually found the data center industry.
I think it's amazing, and keeping it real as always, right? Well, I thought it was boring, but then...
So I'm still on the outside looking in, and I knew that data centers are important. I was working in IT before as a solution architect, so I knew that. But in Norway we have a lot of energy. We're an energy-rich country, and I knew it was coming, and now it's coming now. Whatever the media stories is, and I think for me, this being here is thank you for the organizers for inviting me to. Thank you.
Yeah, well, for me, it all started with my first grown-up job. I started working at NITO, and I sold electrical cabinets to data centers. And the only thing I knew was that they consumed a lot of power and they needed cooling, because those were the things that I sold to them. And 2 years ago, I started working for my boss right now. And the day I started, they called me Data Center Dennis. And I didn't even know I was going into the data center market, because I thought I was going to sell IT courses, because that's what the company was specialized in. But over the last year, it really grew into me. And I had a conversation 2 weeks ago with some other younger professionals, and we all said to each other, this is a sector that we're not going to leave, because once you're in, it's hard to get out. And the public should know that it's actually some sort of a backbone for their devices, for the way they work, for their professional jobs, but also the things they use at home. They take internet for granted. That's not something that they should threat.
It's a very dangerous thought, though, if we tell them, listen, if you get in, there is no getting out. And I think we will think about that elevator pitch in a second.
So I sent in a picture of my head to friends, and someone told me, you look like your father. And I told them, I know a lot of people who are working within the internet sector. I can make sure your internet gets shut up.
So it's like Hotel California. You can check out anytime you want, but you can never leave. That's the business. But yeah, and it has been that for me as well. I started 10 years ago as a technician. Before that, data center was something out of almost a sci-fi movie or something. I didn't know it even existed in Norway. But I was contacted by a former colleague, an electrician, who had just started in the company in Stack, former Digiplex, and he asked me, could this be interesting? I don't know, let's check it out. And then a couple of interview rounds and everything. And then suddenly I was standing in front of a big data center in Oslo, and on the first day I thought, wow, what am I doing here? I have no clue at all. But 10 years later, I'm still here, so yeah.
So to sum it up, it's kind of a coincidence for all of us. And I had my first day in the Regional Development Agency in Ringerikskraft in 2016, October 17. And I was told on day one that data centers are one of the things that we're really working with, since 2 of the hyperscalers had been to Norway, and then Ringerikskraft had said, let's do this. So that was October 17. October 18, I was sole person manning the stand of Oslo Data Center location at Data Center Forum in Stockholm. I didn't know anything, but I faked it, and I've learned since, and it's been a fun journey.
So yeah, it does seem like it's an accident, but some people say there are no accidents. Now, especially not in a data center, but what I was thinking, and it's a question to all of you, so just signal to your colleagues, like, oh, I want the mic, I would like to answer this question. Because what I was thinking about is, was there a specific part of the elevator pitch that made you go yes, when they tried to convince you to join?
I think for me it was the part about data centers being the backbone of every device that people use. It's such a thing that people take for granted. For instance, I explained the internet to my wife a few weeks ago, and she still does not understand how it works. And
I can empathize. I can empathize.
And the pitch being, okay, Dennis, this is going to be the next best thing, because there are so many data centers inside of the Netherlands, inside of Norway, Denmark, and every country that people doesn't even know the existence of. And it's now time to get more outside and to be more attractive to the people as well.
I noticed, yeah, I was nodding. Frode was nodding. Would you like to share what your elevator pitch was?
Well, it's kind of the same. When I started as a technician, I understood that if I don't do my job properly, basically some critical services for society could actually stop in a worst case scenario, and it's scary and exciting at the same time, and of course keeping you on the toes. And I think but it was something that was appealing, that you know that what you do here is actually something that matters. And as we've spoken about earlier today, the image of the data center industry, that's kind of the focus that needs to get out to everyone. It's actually a really big, important part of the whole ecosystem in our everyday lives.
I think, Irene, in your presentation you were talking about the why for the candidates. What attracts them to join? Do you have any thoughts on that now?
I was promised 4 years ago that this industry would grow. So if you wanted to be part of an adventure, I should. I said, okay, I can try. And it truly is an adventure. And for me also, working with people, of course, but just through that interview, I met 4 or 5 people. And all of them were so enthusiastic. And it was almost like a strange experience. They were talking about it in such a warm, serious, engaging way that I just felt I had to be a part of it. So it was kind of special. Also the people you meet in this industry, truly warm and welcoming in a truly good way.
Don't you just love a trip down memory lane? Maybe you are also going back to those of you who are in the industry, those of you who are considering going, oh my gosh, look at those motivated people doing something that's so important, the backbone of the industry.
But we're talking about all the good memories, but everyone in our goal group and everyone in this room remember March 12, 2020, where we were locked down. How could we have survived the coming weeks and months without the data center then? I mean, we've had many mental issues after COVID, or the plague as I call it. Without the data centers, it would have been so much worse. So it's quite easy to sell. Based on that, we know how bad it can be.
Any thoughts on that? Because I noticed a lot of nodding with, should we go back to the pandemic, or should I jump on to the second question from our audience? Okay, I see the second question. Okay, well, some of you are wondering about that education piece with the business being challenged to go to schools and speak to young people. And what I can say is, when I'm told, because I don't have children myself, but I have a very good friend, and when I first came to Norway, as you can hear, I'm not Norwegian, but when I first came to Norway, I was living together with her, so I know her kids very well. Now they are between 16 to 21, and when I told them that I joined the data center industry, they said, oh, this is cool, what, TikTok? Or I'm like, no, not really, construction, oh, okay. So I was wondering, what do you think? And I'm asking all of you, so feel free to grab the mic when you feel the urge. But what could be a good way to speak to the younger generation to convince them that yes, this is the future?
I think context is king also here. Just basically pointing, what it actually means, and that you have these things, these boring buildings with security cards at the doors, of course. It's linked to your everyday usage, and really when P2P, because like you said, internet is something we take for granted, but really try to get people to understand, and with more young people than we think, they understand these things if you explain it in a good manner, but you have to be patient.
I have two things on that. I know that Digital Realty in the Netherlands, they produced a child book, which they then distributed at young schools for also the younger generation free to read, and also to attract younger people within the business. I think also companies should invite younger people to join in, to go into a day with some of the engineers or so. And it's not only the commercial data centers, it's also the enterprise data centers. It's also the backbone for electricity companies. It's also for insurance companies, banking. That's something that we should not forget.
I know the Norwegian data center industry has had talks where they say what will happen if the data center is shut down, and we can also attract the kids on their platform. I mean, if you scroll and then you create an ad that kind of stops the scrolling, and okay, the data center is going down. Click here to help us solve the problem, and that's the open jobs in Green Mountain or wherever. That could be a creative solution.
I really like the creativity. I can also imagine the horror, the terror on their face. Oh my God, what's happening?
And maybe not send us, like our generation, I don't know, younger people.
And also what's been happening with the Norwegian Data Center Association, with new, cooler things to approach it with the data center TV idea. I think that's going to be the next thing to also attract younger people from a certain age who are about to go into their professional careers, to let them know the branch exists.
Perhaps like a kids TV show then. For the note.
So we have children's books. We have an ad that suddenly, oh my gosh, it crashed, go. So maybe this is a bit slightly older. What about universities? Should we have a little chat about that? What is being done?
I know that there are a lot of initiatives with reaching out to different universities. You have what's called Fagskolen Navy. We have a dialogue with them. They are actually the only vocational school in Norway who actually has a data center specified educational program. The problem is that on the last semester they had 2 students. So perhaps more people need to know about it.
Yeah, but that was my point as well. We have the lines that nobody applied because they didn't know why should I apply this line.
Sigrid wanted to add something.
We all have a job to do. Yes. Also, those we, including outside the industry, we need to wake up and see the connection between the backbone and the end result, to make those connections, because if we don't, we all fucked. So, super crunching.
Time is of the essence here. I have a personal experience. One of my kids is 17. He's second year high school on electrician, and he wanted to do 1 day a week in the data center. And his teacher, the high schools in Norway are owned by the county, he said, no, you won't get a diploma if you go there, because a data center is not really related to what you're doing. So this is the reality, and this happened last week.
I'm to.
This just proves my point. We all have a job to do outside the industry.
You actually need to educate the educators as well then.
Yeah.
Because when the teachers don't know, how can the students know?
Well, how do we do it then? What arguments could we use to convince them?
perhaps invite, as you said, for example, electricians, the teachers at high school level, invite them as well to see a data center. What is a typical data center constructor, data center operator? What do they do? How related is this to your profession? And it's because it's actually really relevant.
That's what I wanted to add on as well. We saw a very big list of job opportunities within a data center. It's not only for electricians, it's for such a broad variety of people to join in. If you are not highly technical schooled, you can join in. You will learn the job because there is a lot of people, especially with a buddy system like using with forces, that could help it. And of course, me being a little bit biased about the data center education, we have a lot of talks with high schools, with universities, and they always start a conversation with saying, okay, we are a competitor of you. Then I said to them, but what if I can give courses in for free to just let people into the data center industry? We see that there is such a great demand within the industry for people to join in, and we have to make it cooler.
Sound. Ooh, we should have next time I want sound. And then Irene, I wanted to also ask you. We will start with you, and then I hope everybody else will join in. From people and culture perspective, what else makes a job or a career in a data center industry attractive? Also for not just thinking about education, but like for adults wanting to switch. That could be good.
I think some of the feedback we've gotten is that you get to work very closely with other disciplines as well. We mentioned it in the presentations as well. If you are an electrician or a plumber or work with any of the other disciplines that we talked about, you actually work in a team. So then there are cross-cultural and cross-functional and everything working together to actually make sure the job in the data center is done. So that's also one of the things that surprised me. But it's a very team-oriented way of thinking because everything is connected to something else. And when you understand that, then you see the whole picture. So we had a plumber that in his job he said, okay, my job is in underneath the sinks in people's kitchen. How can I work in a data center? And we just said there are so many. What's ventil in English? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Valves. I mean, that's
See, it's teamwork,
Yeah.
right? All the time, all along.
so yeah. I just think people don't know. So there are many cross-functional teams. It's feedback I get most.
That's amazing. Thank you for bringing the perspective of the people. With it's not just your opinion as people of culture. And Frode, I notice you're also nodding.
Yes, as you say, all these different trades are relevant to the business, but there are other functions in the data center environment as well. You have, of course, you have the building phase, operating phase, but you have all those administrative roles as well. You have finance, you have sales, you have. So basically, I think there is a place for you in the data center industry.
But
At
is it
some
easy
place.
to move around, or is it like, okay, once you decide this is more or less fixed?
No, to be honest, I think so within the kind of your department or-
Yeah.
So say for example, the guys I started as technician with 10 years ago, we were 5 guys. 4 of us are still in the company in a bit different roles, and two of us have actually gone over to another department as well. Who's gone from operation over to projects and constructions because the experience they have taken from the operational phase has been valuable for them to go into and get further skills and education towards actually doing building projects and be a valuable resource there as well. So yeah, I don't see any issue of branching further out in any direction. So yeah.
I have to say around as well.
Yeah, I just agree. We see that every day. People changing both departments and positions within the company.
I think it's, this is my assumption, isn't it also global industry? So people could, maybe travel. So instead of having 2 weeks here and then 2 weeks at home, you could be 2 weeks here and then 2 weeks in Frankfurt. Or whatever, I don't know.
Yeah, nobody sort of jumped on it, so maybe Frankfurt was not there. Do you want to try again? Thailand? I don't know.
Hawaii or...
Oh, there you go. Okay, now you have a reaction. Okay, cool. Well, just because we are fine-tuning this elevator pitch, then we know Frankfurt, maybe, yeah.
It's a big one. Frankfurt is big.
And speaking about then going international, Dennis, international perspective, how well are we doing here in Norway? How well are we doing here in Norway? So just,
My compliments. No, from the talks that I had with at the different events that I went to, and also with the report from the Norwegian Data Center Association, you guys are doing a hell of a job. Also, not only with your own data centers, but also it's a very good climate for bigger hyperscalers to come into. Of course, I had also the talks with Forces, with them being aside from TikTok, that shows that you really mean business with the data center operations. And if you look at the climate, if you look at the power, because I believe more than 90% of the power that we use is neutral power from your waterfalls, of course. That's a very big plus, because looking from an international perspective, it's a big problem, for instance, in the Netherlands. We have to buy all of our energy because we don't want nuclear energy yet. But it's also a very good point, because you have a lot of space, there is good environment, and also you get to use the power. Now it's just time for the public availability and to let people understand that it's needed.
I think we shouldn't underestimate the value of that the Nordic operators have cooperated in marketing the Nordics, and we are fierce competitors in the country, but when we go together to the events outside, to Stack and the Green Mountain will stand together and say this is the value proposition of the Nordics. So I think that's really important, that we're not competitors when we're outside, but we are that in the boardrooms. But we also have issues in terms of bureaucracy, because the time to power and the time for zoning and the time for all environmental assessments and so on are not working in the favor of the Nordics. So even though we are doing well, there's a lot of room for improvement, especially in the public sector.
we have a bit of hindsight. I think they struggle even more. I have once seen all the folders that were needed to get a permit in Germany. And anything else in terms of international perspectives?
I think if you look at the flat B market, that's Frankfurt, London, Amsterdam, Paris, and Dublin. It's been a long week. The Nordics are the next best thing. Because if you look at the cabling of the internet going into Norway, I believe, because I saw a presentation last year at the Norwegian Data Center Association. This is the best thing to come into. There's a big plus, and now they just keep on going and keep on getting youth people in it. I talked to someone in Denmark yesterday, and there is 3,000 people needed in the Danish data centers at the moment. 3,000 people. Imagine what will happen within the next few years. And that's the same thing going on in Norway, same thing going on in Sweden, Finland. So there's a lot of work to do.
So how do we keep them in Norway then? Because we don't want them to go to Denmark. Elevator pitch.
Have you ever been to Denmark? It's flat and it's windy and it's raining all the time.
Okay, third disclosure about me. I really love the Danish language. Really. I know that many people say that it's about, with the potato in the throat and all of this, but for me it's super melodic. So Forces, please try to find a way to keep me.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I think with the weak NOK now, the currency, I think it's expensive to be in Denmark now. So,
Okay, good one. It's expensive to be anywhere. Okay, well.
Stay at home.
Stay at home. You agree a bit too much. I think we wanted a debate, and I was like, oh yeah, well it's nice. Well, what about Raymond? You said, well, the public image, it's a black box. They don't really know that much about you. Well, let's argue to the contrary. Let's convince. No, the image is positive. What do you think?
I don't understand the question, to be honest. It's
I
too
get
late.
it. Or you can just pass on the mic to someone else.
I can talk for hours about that.
That's
But I have a white hat.
no.
You need to bring that.
You know.
Because I noticed you said that we should be more open about what we do and what's inside. But one of the main premises for our industry is that we have customers and clients that their business is actually for the world not knowing they are there because of safety, security reasons for them as companies. So that's part of the thing that we actually deliver. That's our business. So you also have to respect the customers and clients that don't want to be open about where they are.
Obviously, but if, since Green Mountain is on stage, if you had a 5-building mega campus at Hamar with an undisclosed client, it would be much worse than it being TikTok. And we all know that TikTok will evolve into what has been an art perception of it into several levels. I mean, look at Google in 2005 and Google today. Everyone knows that they're working on being more than just entertainment. So it's going to be a good journey. It would have been a hell of a lot worse if you were, yeah, we have 150 megabytes, but we can't tell you who's in client.
There's much speculation. Yeah.
Oh, I knew exactly where to press, right? Now the gloves are a bit off. Come on. So a few punches.
Well, it's actually a good point that if we go 10 years back, I was kind of first day at work. Don't tell anyone where you work. It's secret. So it's almost like, I work at the data center. I can't say what I'll do there because then I'll kill you. But I think the perspective there has been changed a bit. At least the big IT companies are quite transparent with it. It's a bit funny, a story back to when one of the big ones came into Norway a few years ago. Microsoft was like, hush, just don't say anything about Microsoft, where they are. But then don't say anything. But then it opened the local paper, so Microsoft are building a big data center out in Østfold. So, okay. So it's not a secret. So it's a kind of balancing act all the way, of course. But I think we are, as an industry, much more open now than we were a few years ago. And that's really positive.
I think it's better now than 10 years ago. There's no doubt about that. But there's still a long way to go if you want to have more people joining, especially young people. So that's my point. Still more to be done. I'm not saying it's black. It's just great.
But yeah, you know, it's interesting. Maybe the secrecy is a bit cool. I don't know what the younger generation thinks, but yeah, thank you for taking me back to my Tesla days. Don't say anything, and then you open the newspaper. Oh, good. Yeah. Who spilled the beans? Now, thinking about the future, because you know, those of you who are in the data center, you're stuck. You said it yourselves. Let's imagine 10 years from now we have the same debate. What will be the topics? How do you imagine the life now? That's a big one. Take some kind of it.
I think the start. I think in 10 years, the graph that you had with the oil, I think something has happened there. I think this growth will continue at this point in time. I don't think the AI bubble will burst at some point, but there'll be something else. Hopefully not crypto. But we need data. There's no doubt about that. And especially yesterday with 100% of the public service in Norway should use AI within 6 years. Lots of data. So in 10 years, the growth has grown. More people will be needed. But I think also it will be more open in 10 years than there was today.
I think that all the work that is starting now with this event today even is, well, perhaps that's how we hope it will be. But then actually that it will be the public view and opinion of the data center business is positive, and there are a lot of new people, young guys coming into tech who actually goes there instead of, for example, oil and gas.
Maybe we're lucky enough that foreigners come to Norway and study us. Look what they started back in 2024. How can we copy that? How can we create 100,000 jobs in our branch of the center? That's, I mean, if we do it correctly and if we aim for the stars, maybe we can reach the sky.
I also think that we will cooperate more closely with AI, so to speak, that we have a very efficient way of cooling, we have a very efficient way of using the data, and not just store it lightly within several places. Plus, I also think that there will be a lot of new workforce coming in from the oil and gas industry, because then it will be in a sort of a hybrid form.
Well then, I suppose we'll see each other again in 10 years. Not just kidding, maybe next year. And that was all the time. We did run a bit over time since we were late with the break. Maciej is slowly approaching because he probably wants to tell you, don't go anywhere except for downstairs to the bar, where the bar is open, right? But before we get there, a huge round of applause.